Yes, I think like it would be better if we also do English programs, so all our English speaking international audience can also understand why we have been working on the issue for so many years, and then also your experience online also share with us why you have been writing so much about the Chinese lawyers. So this is also a short introduction about actually everyone actually would know her already, but we want to know also that what people know about you. So Yaxue, I have known you really, really long time, I think like many, many years, that we have been like in different positions, different capacity, been working together on China issues. And Yaxue founded a very excellent platform, China Change. That we have been relying on her and her team to do a lot of translations and writings about Chinese human rights lawyers and the rule of law in China. I think today I really, really, really want to know because our channel's name in Chinese is 中国人权律师的故事. So it's the story about Chinese human rights lawyers. And from your years of experience, definitely please share with us why you were so passionate and so much interested in writing about Chinese human rights lawyers.
Okay, well, thank you for having this new channel. I think it's very interesting. In time, it can be very useful and very important too. And thank you for having me today. Okay.
Thank you.
So I started China Change around 2012, but the website chinachange.org wasn't launched until 2013, mid 2013. So when I started to accidentally really step into human rights in China, I had already lived in the US for over 20 years at the time. And I was a busy student, and I had a job, I got married, I have kids. So it was a busy life. I didn't really care that much about what's going on in China. I missed the whole drama, in the first 10 years of China's rapid growth and the event of internet on all these forums, all these discussions. I missed all of it. I didn't know a thing about it. So accidentally, I wouldn't go into the details, but accidentally in late 2011 and 2012, I stepped into this arena. And I realized that, oh my God, I didn't know anything. So I started writing first in a little blog called Seeing Red in China, co-blogging with an American young man called Tom Morse. So we wrote exclusively about China, as you can tell from the title of the name of the blog. So my video isn't working. Looks like
I can see you. I can see you.
Yeah. But on my side, it's frozen. Yeah. But anyway, and so what's going on here? It's okay. I'm actually moving. Okay.
Yeah, you're moving.
I can't see myself moving. It's kind of funny. When I started, the one thing to keep in mind is that I had a steep learning curve to catch up. It was very eye-opening for me because I didn't know so many things that were going on there. So when 709 happened in 2015, I was barely at a point where I finally caught my breath, Meaning that I finally had a somewhat good grasp of what's going on in China. I knew about the Weiquan movement, but when 709 occurred, I realized pretty soon, now more prominently so, that I didn't know this subgroup of people, the human rights lawyers. I didn't know much about them. For example, I never heard of the name Zhou Shifeng. I had never heard of Wang Yu either, so famous at the time already. I might have come across her name in the case of Chao Shunli and this case and that, but it didn't. The human rights lawyers didn't stand out for me at the time. So when 709 occurred, it was really a shock for me in both in two aspects. First of all, I don't know who these people were. And secondly, of course, I didn't know much about their work either. So, but I quickly realized, just from life experience, from following China, human rights in China at the time for about 3-4 years, and I quickly realized that it's a huge event politically, legally, and it's something that I need to get on with it quickly. So I think we wrote the first piece about Wang Yu's arrest, and then we wrote some of the basics in reporting. For example, who are these people? A small biographies, right? And what kind of cases? I remember I was very proud of an article I wrote myself that we wrote about 14 cases that typical cases the human rights lawyers had done to just illustrate to our readers what exactly human rights lawyers are, what they do, So gave them some idea. I thought that's kind of should be somewhat edifying for our readers. So we did that. And then there was, if you probably recall, for 18 months after 709, there was no news whatsoever about the detainees. Yeah. Until January 2017, when lawyer Chen Jiangang published Xie Yang, meeting with Xie Yang, his record of talking to Xie Yang and Xie Yang relating to him the abhorrent torture and the methods and the charges and so on and so forth. And we China Change within 36 hours in different segments, we translated the whole transcript of a lawyer Chen Jiangang's transcript of Xie Yang, his meeting with Xie Yang. So that was a huge. Oh my God! It caused the media blizzard that lasted for over a month. Yeah. All major papers quoted us, cited us, and used us as a source. I remember there was a Spanish-speaking journalist in Beijing wrote me on Telegram, said, when is your last section coming out? Because the transcripts are very long. It takes time to translate it all. So in order to satisfy these, meet the needs of these journalists, so we published as we go. when we translated 1/3, we published 1/3, another third, another third. So she was asking me, when was the last third coming out? So, but within 40 hours, we translated all. Very long pieces. So from there on, very soon, some 709 lawyers got released. And I remember lawyer Xie Yanyi was the first to write about his experience called the 709记事. I forgot how we translated the title, 709 story or whatever. So we, with his permission, he wrote in very, very long form, too long for our readers, and necessarily too long, I must say, with too many digressions and other things. So with his permission, I kind of compressed his narrative, his narration, and published the translation. So from there on, I basically focused. Well, we have always been writing about a broader, in a broader range, but human rights lawyers from that point on became a very important focus of China change. So hopefully that's a long answer for your question.
It's all very, very interesting, and then because most of my time working on Chinese human rights issues on lawyers, it just happened to be when Albert Ho and Emily Lau and others in Hong Kong founded China Human Rights Lawyers Concern Group in 2007. Then we started working on how we could offer some help to and also support because we feel like, oh wow, they are so brave. And Albert Ho was just respected them so much. Just we feel like we just do whatever we can to show our support. And then when I was working at Amnesty International, then I saw China Change information. It became also a main source of information for us to look at.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's how we should look at the Chinese human rights lawyers' issues in so much detail. It's so interesting because in the past, we always just okay, such and such human rights activists, human rights lawyers were arrested. And then for us, mostly we see okay, we try to document how they've been tortured, how they have been arrested. And of course, we also roll up our report. But mostly it's from a perspective of human rights organization. So we need to put it in the way to see how we can do our campaigns with our research. So it's based on our research. It's our being a researcher is to see how we do the research and then to show our support and do a campaign. But then through all your excellent work to translate all the stories and also testimonies and the meetings about all these lawyers, that I think the international audience got a more chance to read the stories through their voices. I think that's so important. So it's so because very, very time consuming. It's difficult actually for organizations like Amnesty and others to really spend time translating all these important information, the testimonies and transcripts of meetings, etc. So really, China Change has really filled this very important gap. And people can really have a chance to hear their voices. Because in the past, I think only those who can speak Chinese would have a chance to really be able to read all the details. And it's really all these details are not just like additional information, but they are really, really important and central to the stories. I think that's why it attracted a lot of the international media's attention, because it's really something has never been done before. I think it may be like something in the past we would expect some of the media would have done the job. But obviously, for media, they have always to find where would be the punchline, where would be the interesting bit. So they only focus on those. But then they miss a big piece of the other information, the details. So I think that's something what is so important, is to have the presence of kind of change to help fill the gap. I'm sure you're still doing the excellent job to fill this gap.
Yeah. Look, this I came from a literature background, so I am. I would say I'm well trained in storytelling, and high literary style, and I'm very interested in details, in the human story behind the issues. The issues, of course, are there when you tell a story, but people, human rights organizations can often pick the issues and forgot the real humans behind it. So real humans behind it became just names. You don't feel them. So for me, it should be the opposite, but not should. I think every organization has its mission, its way of doing things. They're doing their things, but our thing is to show the humans. So I often say, the human rights organizations, different human rights organizations, actually complement each other. And there are organizations, for example, 关注组 didn't write so much long form stories, and some of their writings, their long profiles, I must say, aren't that good. I'm sorry to say that. It's very dry, very poorly written, but they did an excellent job recording the timelines, especially the 709. It's so important. I want to show you something. I have this. I have a new project I'm working on. Right. I don't want to go into detail, but this is a 关注组's work. It records from a 7:10 on every hour. Who has been detained, who has been summoned by police, who has said what, and this is just unbelievable. And all the way, all these pages, 32 pages, all the way to the last day of July 2015. This is a treasure. So the 关注组's work, especially on 709, is priceless. Please let the people there know. But my interest is to find the humans and show the human story, also show the Chinese authorities' methods. And that's very, we often say the evil CCP, this and that, but how do they do it? This is very crucial. We have to show the world how they do it. In order for people to actually have a sense how evil they are, how barbaric they are, how cruel they are, and how ugly they are, how inhumane they are. So all these has to be presented through details. And the other thing I want to say that from day one at China Change, my belief is that we have to write in good English. We have to have a quality writing. Otherwise, I used to say something that sounds very cruel, but it's true. I used to say, I said, I don't know how noble you are. I don't know what great cause you're working on. I don't care how much suffering you have gone through. If we cannot present it in good quality writing, I have no reason to expect the readers, to hold the readers' attention and the interest. Whatever we write, the writing itself should be pleasurable. I know it sounds paradoxical, but it's true. It has to, good writing is a pleasurable experience. Even though you're writing sad things, horrible things, the writing itself has to be good. That's my deep-seated belief from a literary background. So we always, oh my God, I have a proofreader who's a very, very good writer too. So he goes through the last version with me, right? After all, I'm a foreign language speaker. And he used to joke. He said, there's a Chinese saying says, 我叫什么来着？我一下忘了，看看他怎么说的啊。他说这个，他说这个，wait, he just said it the other day. He said, 学无止境. Okay, learning there's no limit to learning. And the other day he said, 应该改成编无止境. 编 means editing. There's no limit to editing job. So meaning that we really, really take our writing seriously. And sometimes we make a little mistake. The post was posted, and we find out I had this huge pun on my heart. I felt like so bad. Oh, here we misspelled that, or there we didn't. We missed that one. It's an error. I feel so. My proofreader was the same, and I would comfort him. I said, "Calm down, calm down. We're not a New Yorker. Nobody expects us to be the New Yorker." But just to let you know, let our audience know that how seriously and how much we have been committed to good writing. And I think that's China Change. That's one of the China Change's great features. Hopefully, it's been appreciated. I don't know about that, but for us, that's something that has to be done.
Yeah, I do think this very, very important because I was a journalist and then became an NGO worker. And I could really feel very strongly like how important and it is to have good writing to help raise attention and also to make people feel why they need to care about this, why they need to do something, why they think we should be concerned about the issue and what they can actually contribute. What they can actually help to raise the attention to other people. And so good writing is really important for them to do this job. So I think like for me that after, so many years working on the issue of Chinese lawyers, many stories still like kind of touch me so much. I think I can never forget how I first got into the world of Chinese human rights lawyers with the story of Gao Jishen. It was really, really, really a very terrible stories about how a very successful lawyer suddenly become a prisoner just because of following his will to help others. And I read also his defense statement for a case of workers, which something actually I didn't actually know about him before reading about this defense statement. So there was a case back in 2004, 2003, 2004. That was quite a long time ago when he actually was still a very prominent lawyer in China. That case was about like a Taiwanese invested factories in China. Workers actually been like suffering all the wage in arrears and all the problems, but then he stood out as one of the very outspoken lawyer at the time already. He talked about how this Communist Party claimed to be, formed for the for the workers, and they supposed to be a party for workers because that's what communists, it mean to be. But then they actually didn't say the word to help these workers, and now he, a lawyer, needed to speak up for the workers in court, and he criticized really strongly how the Communist Party failed to do and make the whole court stories very, very interesting. It's no longer just about a wage in arrear case. It's all about like how much he wants to show in the court hearing how the workers been suffering. So I think like for me that's how I got first very much interested and impressed. The lawyers actually can play a role in the course of very, as what you just mentioned, a very important course in the Yaxue movement in helping people who are powerless. And then what I saw the lawyer became was like they used to be pretty powerful, just like Gao Zhizhen used to be one of the 10, awarded lawyers in China. But then suddenly he became a victim. They're so vulnerable. So it's very powerful people can also suddenly become very vulnerable. That's human. Because it's so that's how what I heard about you sharing your story about how you became so much interested in writing the stories and how you feel like, okay, we should have a human face for all these stories about these lawyers. That made me also remember how I first came to know about all these lawyers from Gao Zhizhen's story. So I think like for us that we were so much influenced and kind of like so much impressed by the stories of these Chinese human rights lawyers. So my next question is, okay, even you talk about 709, that happened back in 2015. So today is 2024. So 9 years now. What made you continue your important work? I mean, how you think like, okay, after 9 years, we all think, okay, it's always been difficult for these years. And then why you think still you need to keep on working on this?
Well, on a day-to-day basis, 709 is not over yet. We all know that. Lawyers continue to be disbarred for their work. And the 709 lawyers' families, lawyers and their families, including their young kids, continue to be oppressed. For example, just the other day, I was talking to lawyer Wang Quanzhang. He said scores of people, God knows who sent them. Well, we know who sent them to his son's 11-year-old son's school in Guangzhou to drive in order to drive him out of school. So, and before a few months ago, the family, Wang Quanzhang's family, was evicted from one apartment to another. severing their power and water supply, their utilities. It's just the same with lawyer Li Heping's family. And we still know, we know that there are still probably a long list of lawyers who have been banned from leaving China, which is totally illegal to have these exit ban on them. So it's not over yet. And lawyer Zhou Shifeng, who was released about a year and a half ago and still under tight surveillance, and many other, a lot of the human rights lawyers, 709 lawyers and other lawyers, other human rights lawyers, have since 2015 or even earlier entered the list of the national enemies. So that means they are, during the 2 sessions, they're treated like dissidents and political opponents, or the opponents of the government. So that's how they're treated. So basically, that's how we have to look at human rights lawyers in a broader light. Also in the political context, I think it helps for me to remind you and our listeners, whoever they are out there, that in July 2012, there was an article in overseas edition of People's Daily that listed 5 categories of people who were deemed as a regime threat by the Ministry of National Security. And the 5 groups are Weiquan lawyer, believers, dissidents, internet opinion leaders, and the vulnerable groups at the bottom of a society, which God knows how big it can be. But notice this interesting phenomenon. Weiquan lawyers is back then and now has been a very, very small group compared to the 4 other groups, any of them. It's disproportionately small, ridiculously small compared to the others. Yet the lawyers, the Weiquan lawyers, were put as the first of the 5 categories. So you can kind of, if we put ourselves in the shoes of the Communist Party, you can kind of see how they think.
Yeah.
You know, you can also see the work of Weiquan lawyers, how much their work shakes the government in a way that makes them so fearful of them. So that's why, no matter how small this group is, and by the way, any group is not set in stone. It comes and go. It can be bigger. I mean, and today, if you look at a lot of lawyers' expressions on WeChat, after all, if you're a lawyer, you're independent enough. You have to be for rule of law. You have to be for the basic rights. Therefore, you're naturally the enemy of the state.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to continue support these lawyers. First of all, learn their stories, try our best to know what they're doing, at least to get their voices out, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, like for so many of us that we have been following all these cases and these lawyers for so many years, I think the story is still going on. I mean, like it's so sad to see like how the situation is still even going worse. But for example, like what you just mentioned about Wang Quanzhang,
Mm-hmm.
I knew him like when he was a very young lawyer. But then like he became so prominent like in defending cases, and also he himself got into trouble. But then even after he was released, the authorities actually didn't actually just stop there. They still
Mm-hmm.
they
Yeah.
still go after him and his whole family, like giving them a lot of trouble, just like you just
Mm-hmm.
described how they forced them to move from one department to another and then continue to put heavy surveillance on them. And then also even when they were on the street, you can obviously see a lot of people been watching them. So I think all this harassment been really affecting the daily life of all these people. And even up to now, there are many others who've been really experiencing similar situation, like Jiang Tianyong and many others.
Mm-hmm.
Their own situation been like going worse. So I think that makes us like feel we should still have a duty. I think how you feel about it, how you feel about your passion. Just think like we already been living in a free society. Then why
Mm-hmm.
you see is so important for us to pay attention to these people? It's not just
Mm-hmm.
of like seeing them as you know subjects of our writing or subject of our research. How do you see? I mean, like for you, how do you see your relationship with all these lawyers? I mean, like there should be something you feel so special about writing about that, right? And then
Yeah.
not just about
Mm-hmm.
the subject of how to make your writing going on, but just how you feel about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I when I first started the China Change, one of the things I felt so acutely, is that Jesus, I have a safety and I have a freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And so my motto to this day, a decade later, is very simple: put my freedom to use. 把
Mm-hmm.
我的自由派上用场, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
put my freedom to use. I feel like before I started the China Change, I was busy working, busy raising kids. I didn't know. So I can't be blamed for not knowing, although it's blamable, I must say. As a Chinese immigrant, I have a duty to know, but I didn't for 2 decades. I felt bad about it, but too late. But once I started, I felt strongly that my freedom should be used to advance their freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the big framework. So I should become an advocate for them. I should become a writer for them, a translator for them, bringing their voices, their stories, their human faces to a larger world. That's what we have been doing. And by doing that, I I do feel it's been long enough. I do feel that I have become an extension of them,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very, very special feeling. We live in a changing world. It is my belief that the Communist Party can't go on forever, right? So um, uh, we need to do our share. I feel lucky. I feel chosen to be working in this area, doing what I've been doing. If it's just for making money, I could be doing something else and make a lot more, obviously, because of my own from my own experience, I knew that, right? But there's a certain satisfaction in personal satisfaction in the kind of work we do. It is not just a responsibility, not a sense of being chosen to be with them, to do this in this specific time period. And it's also personally satisfying. Yes. So I continued. There's still, 709 is almost 9 years, but there's still so much to be done, and so much left undone. So I have no shortage of work to do. And thinking about doing something really big. I can't talk about it, but it's we live in a very special time, being given a very special mission. I say being given, it's a higher order. I think you're religious, you probably know what I mean, even though I am not religious actually, but I do have a broader religious sense, or mindset, if you say, because I believe there is a higher order. So I feel like very blessed in a way.
Yeah.
I realize I'm rambling. I don't know if I'm answering your question well.
No.
But
Yeah, I think like it's all very important because you're sharing your experience and also you're sharing how you come to today, how you've been working and been caring for. Because if you don't care about them, you would rather do something else, really.
Right. Care. We do care. Yes.
Yeah.
Deeply.
Then I always feel I would tell like all the lawyers that maybe they would have like some really high expectation on us. Like we live in a free world, so they want to talk to us and see whether we can tell people about them. And then they may have like some really, really high expectation, or whether you can really influence other governments to do things to help them by influencing the Chinese government to change the situation. Then I always make sure to lower the expectation, because really just say, okay, as an ordinary person, I'm interested in the issue because I feel like it's so much it really touched my heart. I feel like, gosh, how can the Chinese government been doing such things, horrible things against its own people? And the lawyers, what they have been doing is just trying to help to shape the system, to help the Chinese society to be a more like just society. Because if you really can depend on lawyers to help you, seek legal redress, legal remedies, and that really can also help the government to improve its governance. I think like for me, it's just as simple as that. But just really don't quite understand up to now why people in power, and they just enjoy to control to the extent that they want to control everything, everybody, to the extent that even they don't really appreciate, they really don't respect all the efforts made by all these very educated lawyers. They know a lot of like legal knowledge, and they really can help many people around them. But very sadly, when we hear all these stories, they just not like respected by the Chinese government. So I just want to tell them like how I feel bad for them.
Yeah. Well, you all I can tell you is that you're not thinking like the Communist Party. From their perspective, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. you're a Hong Konger. Just look at what they're doing in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Just and Hong Kong has the best rule of law. Used to be rated among the top societies in the world. You know, from the British system, and it was a beautiful society with a beautiful rule of law. And look at what they're doing in Hong Kong, number one, and how quickly Hong Kong can be changed, how quickly they're changing Hong Kong. It's like a falling stone. Yeah. So remember, the Communist Party, whether Stalin or Mao or today Xi Jinping, and same with Deng Xiaoping, really. But Deng Xiaoping as someone in between, who had to deal with China on the brink, right? So, but if you look at Stalin, Mao, and Xi Jinping, you look at all these the spectrum of people. Remember one word, 改造. 改造 means remake, literally, right? Remake. What they have done in China is to remake the Chinese society. They succeeded in that. They completely remade it. And in Hong Kong, just watch 这个改造过程, this process of remaking Hong Kong. So 改造 is in the DNA of this kind of a Leninist regime. So you need to understand their logic. You need to switch role and think like them. So you'll see better. I hear, so you see the Western, the United States and European, the reason their China policy has been so misguided for so long is because they were thinking just like you just did. Why are they doing this? This can't be good for their society. These people are doing good things. They ought to welcome them. They ought to give them an award. So that's why we have to think like them in order to understand their logic, which really isn't that hard.
But this is so, I mean, like, yeah, thanks a lot for explaining. Yeah, I do really think, just like many of my fellow Hong Kongers, I think like for many also, many people living in Western democracies, I think genuinely they really think, why the Chinese government doing this? Why, they're just exerting control? Why? I think like this is really tell us a very fundamental issue here. It's the nature of the regime. It's really the nature of the regime. So I think what you have been doing, and also what we all have been doing on Chinese human rights lawyers, and then also other related human rights issues, is really, I think people should really realize it. Why the government want to control? It's really their nature. This is really about power, money, interest, etc. What they care is really only about their own interest. They only care about their own power and the control. So I think it's really important we really know how to handle China nowadays. There's so many people just feel like, oh, no, I've been hearing for many, many times that people, even up to nowadays, people will still say, these human rights lawyers are just a small group of exceptional people, they exceptional, just so special. So they're targeted because they criticize the Chinese communist regime, and they really risk their own safety for doing so. But there's still a large majority, many others who don't fall into that trouble. So how do you see how do you view it, and when people actually make this comment, how they question. I mean, it's just a small group of people. They really they don't represent. It's always a question about how people would challenge, say, oh, they don't represent the whole legal population. They don't really can represent the whole legal profession. How do you think about it?
That's the Chinese government's argument too. I was talking to Li Fangping, lawyer Li Fangping, the other day. I was asking him about a meeting convened by the Ministry of Justice at the end of August 2017, right after the second anniversary of 709. So it's a meeting of about a dozen or so, maybe 15 to 20 Weiquan lawyers, but 3 or 4 times more the regular lawyers, especially the lawyers close to the government. Okay, so basically it was a brainwash during the day and struggle session in the evenings for 2 days, right? So basically the government, and also during the 709 interrogations, the government wants to tell the lawyers and tell the whole legal the profession, the lawyer profession, and the society at large that these are very, very small number of lawyers. They're bad actors. They do not represent the majority. So the underlying statement is that the majority has to be on the right side. See, so all we have to do, it's not about a number game. It's about the thing. Okay, if you think the 709 lawyers are bad actors who have committed a crime, how about gave them a regular rule of law, trying them, sentencing them, so on and so forth? Why were you denying them access to lawyer? Why were you holding secret trials? Why were you torturing them? They can't explain if you ask them why. So therefore, it's not about there are 3 bad lawyers and 300,000 good lawyers. It's not all about that. It's about put the things on the table, what these lawyers did and how you treated them and why are you doing this. So for me, that's the essence of it. I would never argue with the people that 90% of the lawyers are not rights lawyers, therefore these rights lawyers are bad lawyers. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. So.
Yeah. Definitely. I totally agree with you. So yeah, I mean, thanks again, Yaxue, for joining our program. I think like an hour is really not enough for us to talk about all our friends, all these very important lawyers, and also your important work on translating the voices to get their stories heard around the world. So I think we definitely would need to do more. We never feel like it's always enough. It's always not enough. So we always feel, okay, we should do more.
Yeah, we don't just translate. We also write profiles and do interviews because the translation means they have already written it. Then we translate it. But oftentimes it's not written. We need to go out and find them, interview them, or research and write a profile about them. So it's a whatever form suits, we do it. Yeah.
So yeah, once again, thank you very much for your time and also joining our program. I think I've learned a lot, like from our conversation on and our experiences, like how you've been sharing your experiences with our audience. And then I hope that there would be more attention, even more attention on the lawyers. And then we will continue to try out to do this channel and see what will happen when we get more people and more voices to express the stories of all these important Chinese human rights lawyers' work. So thank you very much again. So we'll definitely try to arrange another time to talk to you for this program. Thank you, Yaxue.
Okay, so thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye.